To begin, the time period from 1450 to 1750 is about the meeting of the two hemispheres, the beginning of European imperialism, scientific and technological advancement, religious changes, and mercantilism. Since this period marked the beginnings of global interactions, it is called
the Age of Exploration.
In Europe, this time period was about both external and internal explorations. Due to the rediscovery of classical texts, new theories about thought arose. These came in the form of the Enlightenment, with the idea of social contract by Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and other philosophers like Voltaire and John Locke's contributions. The scientific revolution, with the likes of Galileo, Copernicus, and Newton doing math and astronomy, as well as the Renaissance, mostly taking place in Italy, which produced famous art like Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel and Leonardo da Vinci's The Mona Lisa. Art was also improved through architecture, as seen by the French King Louis XIV's palace and gardens at Versailles. Russia's Peter I tried to modernize his country by forcing men to shave their beards and women to wear Western clothes, as well as creating big cities like St. Petersburg. Another internal exploration of this time period was through religious reformations. Primarily, the Protestant Reformation started by Martin Luther's 95 Theses, but also headlined by Henry VIII's separation from the Catholic Church so he could divorce his wife. This caused the Church to have a counter-reformation, creating groups like the Jesuits and the Council of Trent. Many of these ideas were spread due to Johannes Gutenberg creating the printing press. Another Catholic reaction to the Protestant Reformation was the Spanish Inquisition, led by King Ferdinand and Isabella of Castile, that persecuted against anyone who was not Catholic. These leaders of the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal, supported explorers and joint stock companies like the Dutch VOC.
In the Americas, explorers like Christopher Columbus influenced the world by opening the way to Spanish conquest and colonization, even creating competition for land and power with Portugal. Other notable explorers are Bartolomeu Diaz, Ferdinand Magellan, and James Cook. These European explorers had campaigns to colonize and explore new lands with the intention to spread Christianity, the desire to gain wealth, and the quest for power. However, there was conflict between Spain and Portugal that led to the competition of land, leading to the Treaty of Tordesillas. All land east would belong to Portugal, while all land west would belong to Spain. This led to fully globalized networks of communication and exchange, seen in the Columbian Exchange, that brought many negative and positive changes to the colonized population. When the Europeans arrived, they also brought new pathogens that caused ultimately the fall of the Aztec Empire by Hernando Cortés and the Incan Empire by Francisco Pizarro. The reason for the decline was the new disease that was introduced. Most devastatingly, it was smallpox, where natives had no immunity and caused 100 million people to die in the Americas. Europeans also introduced new crops and livestock that led to the increase of nutritional value in diets, increasing the population of the newly colonized countries. The encomenda system was what the early Spanish settlers used to recruit workers when they colonized the Americas. With a surplus of natural resources and few Europeans to work the land, this system allowed them to demand for workers to work the mine and fields. However, given hard, cruel work with severe punishment, many fled their communities.
In Africa, the period from 1450 to 1750 marked the beginning of European imperialism. As sugar plantations were built in the Americas, a process called triangular trade became the basis of the early Atlantic slave trade. Slaves endured miserable conditions on the infamous Middle Passage, but the trade continued despite the deaths of approximately 4 million victims. The Islamic slave trade transported as many as 10 million slaves across the Sahara Desert by camel caravan to Southwest Asia. The Songhai Empire lasted from 1464 to 1591, and its most important leader was Sunni Ali. Eventually, this empire was replaced by regional states, and the Swahili city-states along the East African coast were disrupted by Portuguese mariner Vasco da Gama in an effort to control Indian Ocean trade. Similarly, the Kingdom of Congo was also reconnoitered by the Portuguese. The Congolese kings often converted to Christianity, like King Afonso I, which facilitated diplomatic relations with the Portuguese merchants and monarchy. The first African colony was Angola, controlled by the Portuguese in the Kingdom of Dongo around 1575. The imperialists were met with fierce resistance from Queen Zinga, a warrior queen. After her death, resistance to European imperialism weakened, and colonists flowed into South Africa, where the Dutch established Cape Town in 1652. In terms of religion in Africa, Islam was blended with indigenous beliefs and neglected to acknowledge more conservative values of Islam. The Fulani tried to promote a rigid form of traditional Islam but were unsuccessful. Christianity gained popularity and was sometimes embraced, like by the Congolese kings, but also mixed with indigenous beliefs, like in the Antonian movement.
In the Middle East, the Abbasid Caliphate had come to an end in the 1200s. Many years followed where different groups competed for political power. Mongol warriors had invaded the Middle East, and the Seljuk and Ottoman Turks rose as regional powers. Strong political states emerged in the Middle East in this time period, including the Ottoman Empire in present-day Turkey and the Safavid Empire. Both empires were highly centralized, technologically advanced, and militarily powerful. Along with Mughal India, these two states were considered gunpowder states because of their effective use of weaponry. Nomads from Central Asia, the Ottoman Turks established their own state in the 1200s, but by the late 1400s had gained hegemony over the Middle East. They showed their skillful use of weaponry as seen in the conquest of Constantinople in 1453, and also facilitated the spread of Islam as seen by turning the Hagia Sophia into a mosque. Under Suleiman the Magnificent, the Ottoman Empire had expanded deep into southeastern Europe and across North Africa, with its presence lingering until the early 1900s. The Ottoman sultans used past methods of state building, like including an elaborate bureaucracy headed by Grand Vizier with a staff of lesser viziers. Institutions of the Ottoman Empire included devshirme and janissaries, as well as the millet system, in which people paid jizya tax. In 1683, a key point was the Siege of Vienna, where they launched full-scale invasion of Europe. However, they come across a counteroffensive by Austrian Catholics. A 15-year-old boy named Ismail became Shah of the Safavid Empire and is known for creating the syncretic religion of Balver Shi'ism. Safavid Persia and Isfahan traded commodities such as silk, ceramic, and Persian rugs. Due to Abbas the Great, Safavids used gunpowder and military slavery like their Ottoman enemies. Due to famines and plagues, the Safavid Empire fell in the 1700s.
Meanwhile, in South Asia, Babur, a Chagatai Turk, invaded North India and defeated the Delhi Sultanate with the aid of gunpowder weaponry to form the Mughal Empire. Under his grandson, Akbar, the unification of India was made possible by the policy of religious toleration, eliminating the jizya tax, as well as ending the practice of sati. Akbar also created a syncretic religion, divine faith of Hinduism and Islam, to create a common religion. Under Shah Jahan came the age of art, notably the Taj Mahal. When Aurangzeb replaced him, jizya was reinstated and Hindu temples were destroyed and rebuilt as mosques. Not to mention, the removal of religious toleration rekindled tensions between Hindus and Muslims. During the arrival of Europeans, mercantilism played a massive role in India, as seen in the British East India Company.
In this era in East Asia, Ming Dynasty still served as a major power. They created a tributary system with the Joseon Dynasty in Korea, Vietnam, and others. Also, China sent Zheng He on 7 exploration voyages in the Indian Ocean. These voyages had a larger impact than those of the Europeans. However, the Ming Dynasty collapsed due to the Lizen Jing rebellion that lasted 46 years. They allowed Manchu warriors to help them fight, but the Manchus eventually took over the government and created the Qing dynasty. Oda Nobunaga used strong military tactics and gunpowder weapons in an attempt to unite Japan. He was assassinated in Honnoji temples. Toyotomi Hideyoshi successfully united Japan. Tokugawa Ieyasu created the Edo Bakufu government, which concentrated power in the shoguns, daimyo, and samurais.